There's new fallout today from the G7 gathering in Quebec that ended in rancor between President Trump and some close U.S. allies. Lisa Desjardins begins our coverage.
But we need to avoid a continued tit-for-tat escalation.
An unusually blunt assessment today from British Prime Minister Theresa May after this weekend's tense G7 summit.
This was a difficult summit with, at times, some very candid discussions. But the conclusion I draw is that it is only through continued dialogue that we can find ways to work together to resolve the challenges we face.
Topping those challenges at the moment is the split between President Trump and his G7 counterparts over U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. Some of his harshest words were aimed at Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, who criticized the U.S. tariffs on Saturday after Mr. Trump left the summit early to head to Singapore.
It's kind of insulting. It would be with regret, but it would be with absolute certainty and firmness that we move forward with retaliatory measures on July 1st, applying equivalent tariffs to the ones that the Americans have unjustly applied to us.
In short order, President Trump tweeted he was withdrawing from the G7's joint statement on trade, and he blasted Trudeau as dishonest. On Sunday, White House trade advisor Peter Navarro stepped up the attack.
There's a special place in hell for any foreign leader that engages in bad faith diplomacy with President Donald J. Trump and then tries to stab him in the back on the way out the door.
At risk is a key relationship on both sides. Canada is the United States' largest export market overall. It's also the largest market for American agricultural goods. Since the North American Free Trade Agreement went into effect in 1994, exports to Canada have soared 181%. Imports from Canada have increased slightly less, 170%. Last night, Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine came to Canada's defense, tweeting, "We've had differences with Canada over the years. Nevertheless, Canada remains our close ally, good friend, and one of America's biggest trading partners." Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein of California said the G7 agreement is more than symbolic.
I understand the president was upset. The president could have said that, but to walk away from our allies in this way, I think, is a mistake.
Even so, from Singapore today, Mr. Trump fired off a new barrage of tweets. One lobbed at Canada proclaimed, "Fair trade is now to be called fool trade if it is not reciprocal." In another, he charged, "Why should I allow countries to continue to make massive trade surpluses while our farmers, workers, and taxpayers have such a big and unfair price to pay?" Secretary of State Mike Pompeo aimed to play down the strains.
There are always irritants in relationships.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Lisa Desjardins.